Rage on that beat, going crazy.
Hello, everybody, and welcome back to Down the Stretch, the Solano Stallions podcast. Carter Scott back again with the host Justin Brown. Justin, how you doing today?
I'm doing pretty well. Cannot complain.
All right, today, no interview this week. I think me and Justin are just going to run down some of the top stories in each league, considering the NBA, NHL, and Major League Baseball have all wrapped their seasons successfully or unsuccessfully, depending how you look at it for each one, as the NFL is now learning from all three of those leagues as they try and figure out how to get through their seasons with COVID looming in the background. All right, let's get into the NBA now. So their season wrapped up. Obviously, the Lakers are champions. They went into a bubble, and they are kind of the COVID headline, I would say. When you think of like sports shutting down, they're always going to show that footage of the day all those NBA games were canceled right before the game started. All the fans are already there and everything. So that's always going to be like the lasting image to me when this year wraps up. But so do you have a favorite storyline or moment from the season?
I would say not necessarily from the entire season, but definitely from the bubble. The Phoenix Suns.
Yes. Yep, that was gonna be mine too. Yeah.
Went about 8-9-0 whenever they went, man, which is ridiculous. I'm a huge Devin Booker fan. That man is ridiculous. He's a walking bucket. I just love watching him play, man. And just kind of seeing that team, just where they've come from, because we know the past couple years they have been trash. So just kind of seeing them just all mature and just playing the way that they're playing during the bubble. Definitely one of my favorite storylines from the season.
Yeah, I felt the same way. Like at the beginning, everyone's like, "Oh, why are the Suns even here? Like it's just no point in having them." And then all of a sudden, they start going like 3-0, 4-0, 5-0, and everyone's like, "Oh, the bubble Suns! No one can touch bubble Suns." And they did never lose. They did all they had to do to somehow make themselves available for a playoff spot. Unfortunately, it didn't work out. But obviously, a lot of positives for Phoenix fans to build on there. It must have been nice seeing your team it must be nice being proud of your team after so many years of just terrible basketball.
Yeah, exactly, man. And then they can use this momentum to build for next season. Still got a bunch of young talent there. Devin Booker is just going to keep getting better. DeAndre Ayton, all those guys. So, yeah, they got some talent there in Phoenix for sure. So, hopefully they can do something. They've been bad for a while. So hopefully they can do something.
Yeah, I think they need it down there. Okay, so I know you're a Laker fan. Happy that your team won the title. So I have to ask now: would the Lakers have won the championship if this was a full normal season?
Of course, no question.
no
question. I will say this: Anthony Davis has a history of getting hurt pretty much every season. So, I mean, the longer the season would have been, the more games, all that stuff, obviously it was a greater chance of him getting hurt. And he kind of broke down towards the end of the finals, got hurt like the last couple games. So, and then, I mean, Bron is Bron, you know what I mean? He seems to never get tired, never get old or anything like that. But obviously the more games, probably the more rest he would have had to have, all that type of stuff. But, yeah, I think we still would have won it outright anyways. I wanted to see the Clippers just so we can quiet all that Clipper noise.
Yeah.
But unfortunately, you know, they didn't show up against the Nuggets, and we just had to run through the Nuggets. It is what it is. So. But, yeah, man, it was a fun season, and of course, I'm happy my Lakers won. So,
yeah, I tend to kind of think the same. I mean, obviously, the extended schedule, more days off, it kind of allows for some more fluky things to kind of happen. But at the end of the day, if you're a top team in the NBA, the distance between you and teams below you is just massive. And that's part of like, some say that's part of the problem in the NBA is like a parity and like you have like a few really good teams than everyone else. So I think the Lakers would have probably been just too much to handle, just like they were in the bubble. I don't know. I don't think it made a difference. I think it just delayed the inevitable.
Yeah.
And I mean, like, I'm not a big LA person because I'm from the Bay. But after everything that happened with Kobe and everything, and that was just like it's such a sick moment to see fans like beloved their player, like it's Kobe, like it's Kobe.
Yeah.
And so something like that happens, and it's just nice to see fans kind of rally around that and kind of have something to be happy about, in a fan base like after they took something so tragic,
Yeah, definitely.
So, do you have MVP for the season?
No, I'm gonna have to go with Bron. 35, however old he is. Led the league in assists this year at like 10.8, 11 assists, something like that. But I mean, Giannis is Giannis. He's ridiculous in his own right. But yeah, I mean, my biased opinion, and just my opinion, because this is just what I believe, is Bron had a little bit of a better season than Giannis, even though they both were ridiculous. But if I was voting, I'd have to go with Bron.
Yeah, I tend to agree. I mean, Giannis deserved the MVP. Like, you can't. It's not like you have to argue against him being the MVP.
Yeah.
Like, you can understand it, but you can also understand if it went to Bron, because I mean, dude's in year 17, and he's still just doing this incredible stuff. It's insane to watch. I mean, and also I've kind of got a funny one. I got Steph Curry as one of my MVPs for sitting on his broken hand or whatever it was for however many months just to ride it out, just to secure the tank job for the Warriors. I mean, I think that's a pretty clutch move by him. He knew Clay was going to be done. He knew the Warriors were out this year already. So he's just like, you know what, man, maybe it's not healing right.
Yeah. And Draymond got on board and sat out a bunch of games out the blue. So
yeah. So shout out to the Warriors for sitting on their injuries and securing the tank job for the number 2 pick. Good for them. All right. And then final question kind of regarding the NBA is so they're thinking about either a Christmas time start or maybe a January start. The NBA and the NBA Players Association still needs to kind of iron all that out. So we saw problems with the MLB. They did it without a bubble, and we saw multiple COVID cases all the time. Do you think the NBA can handle doing another bubble, or will they have to figure something else out for this year?
I mean, it kind of just all depends on where we're at with COVID. A couple months down the road, can they handle it being in a bubble again? Yes. Will it be harder? Yes, because like you said earlier, all the teams would have to be in the bubble now. So that's a lot tougher than the 16 whatever teams that they had in the bubble this past season. So yeah, I mean, they can do it. I mean, my hope is that this COVID thing has died down to a point where we don't have to be in a bubble. We can have fans at the games, a certain amount of fans or whatnot. We could do the travel and all that stuff. But yeah, I mean, we'll see. We just got to see where we're at with all that stuff. But I guess, can they handle it? Yeah. But it'll definitely be more difficult than it was this past season.
Yeah, I agree. I tend to think that a bubble is like the very last resort for the NBA. Like, they don't want to do it. They only do it if they absolutely have to. There's no other options left. So I think maybe if anything, like the NHL is talking about maybe doing like regional bubbles, so you won't have any West Coast teams playing East Coast teams. So we'll see if the NBA kind of leads in that direction as well. So that'll be interesting to watch for sure.
It will be interesting.
The NHL, they were kind of the first of the American leagues to kind of float the idea of finishing their season in a bubble. I think they released their plan before the NBA did of moving certain amount of teams all to Toronto and running like a round robin tournament to determine seeding and determine the final playoff teams and then get into their normal Stanley Cup playoffs. It was a really interesting idea and concept, and I think the NHL doesn't get enough credit, in my opinion, for the leadership they showed. I think Gary Bettman and the entire NHL staff did a great job of realizing that this was something that needed to get done, and they saw the solution in a bubble. And I think that's something that I think the NBA gets credit a lot for, and the NHL doesn't get nearly enough credit for, in my opinion.
No, yeah, I agree. NHL actually did a really good job of just kind of keeping all their players in the bubble. And I don't remember hearing of, if any, I don't remember hearing of too many COVID cases about within that bubble. So, and yeah, like you said, NBA kind of gets all the credit for it, but NHL, they were kind of the first ones to implement it. So they definitely need some credit there. And they did a really good job. So.
Mm-hmm. So let's kind of look at the NHL season as a whole, kind of going from the bubble onwards. Do you have like a favorite storyline or favorite kind of moment from the bubble?
I wouldn't say a favorite, but the most interesting storyline to me, at least, is the Detroit Red Wings. I grew up where the Detroit Red Wings were guaranteed playoffs. You know what I mean?
Yep.
And now, with the past couple years, and like this past year, I believe they had like their lowest point total ever or something like that. So that kind of surprised me just because, like I said, I grew up where the Red Wings were at least one of the top 2 seeds in the playoffs every year throughout. So I definitely say that's one of the storylines that definitely caught my attention and kind of surprised me. And I mean, I guess that's a good thing for the rest of the NHL. That means all these other teams, all their young players, all that, obviously are getting better and improving. And yeah, they're just coming up, and it's just surprising to see the Red Wings where they're at right now. So
yeah, I mean, it was like 20 plus years straight playoff
something like that, yeah.
Red Wings, and growing up a Sharks fan, you get kind of used to seeing the Red Wings like in a series or two. Sharks have a lot of legendary series with the Red Wings, so yeah, it is definitely interesting to see them in that kind of rebuilding spot, like after so many years of consistently being good enough to make the playoffs and make deep runs as well.
Yeah.
For me, one of my favorite moments, as I said, I was a Sharks fan, so my team obviously didn't make the bubble because they weren't very good this year. A lot of injuries, whatever excuse you want to make up for them. But so for me, one of my favorite parts watching was seeing Joe Pavelski just do his thing with the Dallas Stars. I mean, the guy, it was the captain of San Jose for a reason. And so to see him do his thing, standing in front of the net, tipping pucks like no one else in the NHL can, and helping lead that Dallas Star group to the finals against the Lightning was one of the most fun things for me because I have all the love in the world for Joe Pavelski, and obviously I understand why he didn't come back because of money and years and whatever. But seeing him be 34, 35 years old or older, and he's still doing the damn thing in the Stanley Cup final, that was so great. I love seeing him perform very well.
Yeah, they were one game away?
Yeah.
Game 7 loss, but
yeah.
Yeah, he was ridiculous. All playoffs, all bubble long. He was ridiculous.
So now shifting to the Lightning, do you think this is something we're going to get into all the leagues as well? But do you think the Lightning are worthy champions, considering that the season took a turn that no one's ever seen before, and that everyone went into a bubble, and there's like no home ice advantage, no traveling, whatever? Do you think the Lightning are still worthy champions, or do you put a little kind of asterisk next to this year?
I mean, I think they're worthy champions just because every team had to go through exactly what they went through. You know what I mean? Nobody had home ice advantage. Nobody had fans like that in the stands. So kind of everybody was at an even playing field. And again, I don't put an asterisk on it, just like I don't put an asterisk on my Lakers championship this year, which we'll get into a little later. But yeah, man, I believe that they're worthy champions. They had a long layoff too. They had a couple months laid off where kind of you just gotta just wait around, stay in shape. And it's hard just being in a bubble. You're away from family, friends. Don't really have any distractions to focus on other than hockey. That can be tough at times. You know what I mean? So yeah, I don't see an asterisk by this championship, and I think it's well deserved.
Yeah, I feel the same way. I mean, being away from your families is for 3 months. I mean, that's tough. Like all you have is hockey around you all the time. You can't leave. You're really restricted in that bubble. And so I think what they did was obviously incredible. And I don't know if the NHL or any other sports league can do it again. I think, especially as a full season, when you're using all the teams in more games, I don't know if it's possible. But yeah, I think any team, as much as it pains me to say, knowing the Dodgers won the World Series this year, and we'll get into that.
I know.
Oh, well, we will get into that. I don't think you can put an asterisk next to any of these teams, especially since in the NHL and the NBA they ran the full playoff tournament. So it's not like you can say, oh, it was shortened or whatever. They ran it all. So I think you can call all the championships this year legit, and they stick out obviously because it's something I don't think we'll ever see again in our lifetime. So I think if anything, it helps their cause.
Yeah, no, I definitely agree.
So do you have an MVP for the NHL this year? Who you think was the best player?
It's kind of a biased answer just because he's my favorite player in the NHL right now. But I have to say Connor McDavid.
Yeah, I love McDavid.
Yeah, he's ridiculous, man. I just enjoy watching him play, watching him do his thing out there. So yeah, that's my biased opinion. But I mean, stats wise, he deserves to be in the consideration. So.
I agree. I love watching McDavid. I mean, and for my pick, I don't even think he's like obviously the best player in the NHL, but it's just who I enjoy watching. But Austin Matthews from the Maple Leafs, he's so fun to watch. And I know the Leafs never make it past the first, second round, whatever, and that's the joke, 50 years without a title. But I love watching Austin Matthews work with that young core in Toronto, and now they've added Joe Thornton, so we'll see how he blends in there. But yeah, Austin Matthews is so much fun to watch out there.
He's another one that's a lot of fun to watch out there for sure.
All right, so now moving on to the MLB. A lot of thoughts on this season for myself. Let's start positive though. Do you have a favorite storyline or moment from this season?
Favorite storyline and worst moment was when Mookie got traded to the Dodgers, man.
Yeah.
Mookie's my guy. Got a bunch of Mookie jerseys, bunch of Red Sox jerseys. So that one hurt when he went over there to the Dodgers. And then being in the Bay Area, I enjoy watching the Giants, going to a bunch of Giants games, all that stuff. So I enjoy when the Dodgers are not looking too good. Yeah. So once they got Mookie, that kind of solidified it for them, unfortunately. And that showed in the playoffs in the World Series, man. He made a bunch of ridiculous catches, just raking the ball.
Yeah.
Just being Mookie, man. I see why they paid him all that money. Shoot. Yeah. He obviously earned it. So I don't know why my Red Sox didn't want to pay him and decided to trade him in his prime, but it is what it is. And hey, congratulations to him. I was happy for him winning it. Definitely not the Dodgers, but definitely glad my guy Mookie got him another one. So.
Yeah, I remember before COVID, I was sitting in class and I happened to be scrolling through Twitter during a lecture or whatever, and I see the Mookie news pop up, and I just sat there and like sitting in class, like I kind of just like let my mind go blank for like 5 minutes. I was lost. I couldn't fathom how this team that's already should have won the World Series years ago and been the best team in baseball for so long, just traded for like a once in a generation talent for
better.
Almost nothing. Almost nothing.
Made no sense.
Yeah, it literally blew my mind. Like I had to go for a walk after class. I just couldn't handle it. For me, some of my favorite things to watch this year from the Giants was Yastrzemski. I was hoping that his last season wasn't just like a one-off like fluke season, and he proved it wasn't. He was really consistent.
He was ridiculous.
He did really good for the Giants this year. I'm happy to see him kind of anchor the outfield and be a team leader. He won the Willie Mack Award, which is like players and coaches vote on who they think best represents the Giants and best represents them. So I was really happy to see him take that next step and still be relevant in the lineup and on the field as well. And then during the playoffs, the rise of Randy Arozarena, that dude was raking the ball. Man. It was unbelievable. And you see his name anytime you're mentioned with Barry Bonds in any stat, like, dude, you are tearing the cover off the ball. Yeah. Dude was so fun to watch. Like, I had to make sure I stopped every time he was up to bat. I would stop what I'm doing and like make sure I'm watching that at bat. So it was so fun to watch him just explode this season during the playoffs.
Yeah, he was ridiculous. Another one that actually comes to mind for me is kind of the hate that the Astros were getting from, you know, everybody else in the MLB, all the fans and all that stuff, and kind of seeing them kind of thrive off it. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I don't know. I just enjoy competitiveness like that. So yeah, just to see just all the hate they were getting from everybody else, just wanting to lose, calling them cheaters and all that stuff. And they're kind of just like, hey, come beat us. It is what it is. Come beat us.
Yeah, it's crazy to see an under 500 team make it to the American League Championship Series.
Yeah,
They played the heel really well this season. Like, they were the bad guys and they knew it, and they played off it. And it was fun. It's entertaining to like have that bad guy that you want to hate. You know, it makes everything more fun. And it's more fun when they lose. And so when they were down 3-0, everyone was celebrating, feeling good, and then they fought back to 3 against the Rays, and everyone's like, "Oh, don't tell me they're gonna do this right now." So it was fun watching them lose Game 7, and that's what you want. And I think next year, once fans are back, they're gonna get destroyed by every away team.
Even more hate.
Oh yeah, it's just been building up even more from everybody. It's gonna be fun. Okay. So MLB and their COVID protocols. So they opted not to do a bubble, which I can understand, because with the NBA and NHL, you have rinks and you have courts and you can do multiple things at a time. With MLB, the games are a lot longer. Baseball fields are a lot harder to kind of keep in a bubble, you know, whatever reason, fine, I get it. But their protocols this year were terrible. Like, you had multiple outbreaks on multiple teams, and it was either you figure it out or you get left in the dust, basically. So the Marlins were scrambling. They had like 20 new players on their roster at a time. It was absolutely insane to watch. The Cardinals played, I think, like 15 straight double headers or something like that. And I don't know. And then you have we'll get into Justin Turner turning up positive in the World Series in a bubble somehow. We'll get into that in a minute. But as far as protocols go, I think MLB was the worst of all the major sports leagues.
Oh, yeah. They definitely dropped the ball with this one. Rob Manfred got chewed out a bunch of times about it too. And didn't really make too many changes to it, even after he got chewed out. So, yeah, I definitely would say they dropped the ball with that one. Way too many COVID cases. I guess if there was any positive to it, I guess they did a decent job of like rescheduling games and that type of stuff. But yeah, it was just way too many COVID cases. And I just think not enough was done about it. So they definitely dropped the ball with that one.
Yeah, I'm very, very much an anti-Rob Manfred person. I think he's terrible for baseball. So to see his ultimate grand plan, I don't even think he put much thought into it, honestly. But to
I don't
see it
think he
all
did
just
either.
like backfire on him, and then to see him get booed out of the building by the same fans he let into the building during the World Series was just like the icing on the cake. It was
Mhm.
beautiful. It was beautiful to watch. So yeah, MLB failed. I think they just failed their players. They failed their
I,
safety.
I
And
definitely agree.
we'll get into that with Justin Turner in a minute. So let's move on to the Dodgers now. They are champions. Do you think they deserve the title of champions, even though it was a 60-game season and expanded playoffs and this and that, whatever reason?
Um, Again, it's kind of the same thing with all the other sports. Everybody kind of had to go through the same thing that all the other teams had to go through.
Hmm.
So, I mean, I don't think that there should be any asterisks or anything that by their championship rings, but I mean, everybody has their own opinion. I've heard a lot of people calling it what have I heard? I heard Cactus League Championship. I've heard a lot of things.
Uh,
Um, but yeah, I mean, I can guarantee you nobody on that Dodgers team is taking any of this for granted.
mhm.
So I definitely think it's deserved. At the end of the day, you got to play the game, and they played the game and they won. So
As a Giants fan, I think this is the absolute best case scenario if the Dodgers were going to win a title.
yeah,
So now every time I'm talking to a Dodger fan and they can finally say, "Oh yeah, we've got our ring." So where are the Giants now? I have all these backfires. I can say 60-game season. I can say in a bubble, neutral site playoffs. I can say, oh, your 60-game season also included multiple 7-inning games and runner on second in extra innings.
mm-hmm.
I can fire back all these like asterisks, if I want to call it that.
Mm-hmm.
So I think as a Giants fan, if the Dodgers were going to win one, this was the year that it's actually okay with me if they win one. And you know
Mm-hmm.
what? They even when they won it, the biggest story of the night wasn't even that they won the title. And we'll
I
get into that right
know.
now with Justin Turner. So the Dodgers win the World Series. They are jumping around celebrating on the mound. Everyone's happy, you know. I'm sitting there mad that Kevin Cash took out Blake Snell, and I'm sitting there still mad about it. You know, I'm like, man, that guy he just ruined it. And so I'm sitting there watching them celebrate. I'm getting calls from my friends that are Dodger fans. They're calling to talk trash, whatever. Literally, as they're still celebrating and pouring and doing whatever in the outfield, um, the Fox post game starts, and it starts with the host staring at the camera, dead serious, saying Justin Turner was removed from the game due to a positive COVID test. And all of a sudden, all hell just breaks loose in
Mm-hmm.
Major League Baseball. So I want to thank the Dodgers for distracting everyone from the fact that they won the World Series with their own incompetence of Justin Turner being back on the field to celebrate after a positive COVID test. So I see people defending it with, oh, he already played the game. He's already been in the dugout in the clubhouse all day with his players. That's fine. That's fine if it was just them. But the fact that you have families on the field, you have MLB staff on the field, you have security on the field, you have people that had nothing to do with the Dodger clubhouse on the field. So now you're risking all of them for what? Take a few pictures. And it'd be one thing. I get it. He wants to celebrate. And it'd be one thing if he just came out with his mask on and took the picture and left. But he apparently defied MLB's orders, and I don't even know like what they would do in that situation anyway. Like, are you supposed to force him from going back on the field? Are you supposed to lock him in a room? So he defies MLB's orders, goes and celebrates, and then he lingers for about 30 to 45 minutes with all of the players and families and everything. He's giving out hugs. He's holding the trophy. He's sitting taking pictures next to Dave Roberts, who is a cancer survivor. So I mean, for a good 2 hours after the Dodgers win the World Series, all the talk is about Justin Turner breaking COVID protocols, how he even got it in the first place. He's out there mingling around. So I just want to thank the Dodgers for gifting me, a Giants fan, the ability to still crap on the Dodgers even after they won the whole damn thing.
Yeah, I mean, beforehand, when he's hanging out in the locker room, hanging out around all his teammates, all that stuff, nobody knew he had tested positive with COVID.
Mm-hmm.
When he got pulled in like the 6th inning or something like that, at that point, he needs to be quarantined or whatever you're going to do with him. You know what I mean? But yeah, that was just a terrible, terrible look.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
They win the game. My man comes back out there, has his mask on for a second. Next thing you know, his mask is off. He's hugging players, hugging coaches, kisses his wife.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
That's the best part is the picture going around Twitter of him kissing his wife as the graphic on the screen says Justin Turner tests positive for COVID-19.
You just tested positive for COVID. You know what I mean? Like, oh man, that was a bad look, not only for the Dodgers, but mostly for the MLB and Rob Manfred, and just shows how terrible of a job he did at, controlling this thing. And like you said, they're supposed to be in a bubble. How the hell did he get this in the bubble, if that's the case? You know what I mean? Yeah, man. I mean, I haven't heard of any other Dodgers players testing positive or anything like that. But yeah, that was just horrible. My man was out there, no mask, just tested positive. Just like you said, sitting right next to Dave Roberts, who's a cancer survivor, like kissing his wife. I'm like, yo, like he doesn't care at all. Like that was incredible. That was incredible to watch.
It's insane, and it's you can blame both parties here. You can blame Justin Turner and the Dodgers for allowing that to happen, and you can blame MLB for their lack of interest in enforcing their bare minimum COVID protocols. They call it a bubble. It's not a bubble. They call it a bubble to seem like they're being secure, like the other sports leagues did. There's fans at the games for one thing. You got 11,500 fans at the game. So already you've broken the bubble. And so it wouldn't surprise me to hear about a fan or a few who attended the game end up testing positive.
Oh yeah.
So there's that for one. Yeah. And then two, according to Trevor Bauer and multiple other players, Joe Kelly spoke on this as well. The hotel the players are staying at, it's not bought out completely by MLB. So there's just random people staying at the same hotel as the players that are supposed to be in a secure bubble. So already, before you even leave the hotel you're supposed to be stayed at, there's possible breach there. So MLB, just from top down, is just failed this season. They failed at everything. Yeah, they got the season off. Most teams played the 60 games, but it was chaos from the beginning because of everyone scrambling, because either half your team got infected or you have something like this with this Justin Turner thing. It's just a failure from MLB's top from the very beginning.
From top down, it was a failure for sure.
Thank you, though, to the Dodgers. Once again, thank you, just thank you. Thank you for turning the story against yourselves somehow, some way. After the storyline could have very easily just been, Kershaw finally got his ring. 32 years. 32 years since our last title, we finally got it. No, like literally just 5 minutes after it happened, you already turned the story on yourselves and everyone hates you again. So thank you, Justin Turner, and thank you to the Dodgers. Okay. Do you have an MVP for this season?
Yeah, I'd say AL. I'd have to go with Jose Abreu. NL, I'd have to go with Freddie Freeman probably.
Yeah, Freeman showed up. I mean, he also had COVID, and he talked about how
Mm-hmm.
he thought he wasn't going to make it at some point, which is crazy to think about. And so and then he comes back and he rakes all year, and he does great. So Freeman definitely is my MVP, I would say, in the NL. American League, I mean, Abreu did hit the ball really well. I enjoyed watching the White Sox this year because they're young and they're fun and they're bat flipping and they're awesome. So definitely them. Mike Trout, obviously. I mean, he didn't have like a super great year, but I mean, it's Mike Trout.
He's in the running every year, even if he doesn't have a great year. You know what I mean?
That's the crazy thing is like even his down years are insane. So Mike Trout, obviously fun to watch. I had a lot of fun. I had a lot of fun watching a lot of American League teams I don't usually check out because of the 60-game season. So I was watching a lot more baseball than I usually do over the course of a season. So that was fun.
Trevor Bauer, he could have got, you know what I mean, Cy Young and MVP.
Yeah. He carried that Reds team for a lot of time because a lot of people thought their offense was going to do it for him, and they let him down, honestly. So good for Bauer. He's going to get paid this offseason if he wants.
I love his attitude, man. Mm-hmm. I love his attitude. He talks that talk, but he can walk that walk. Like,
he's fun. I like how his ability to grow the game on Twitter. Like he calls out MLB for their BS all the time, and so it's fun to have that kind of guy in baseball when you're not used to seeing that kind of guy. All right, now let's move on to the last sports league that hasn't finished yet in the NFL. So it is week 7. Is it week 7 right now?
7 or 8, one of the two.
One of them.
They might be week 8 because the Niners are 4-3.
Yeah, and the Raiders are playing the Browns. The Raiders are currently playing the Browns right now. It's November 1st. Can the NFL finish off this season? Because they have had multiple COVID issues. One with the Titans was a big one. The Raiders was a big one. Yeah. Can they and they do power through. It's the NFL. They're gonna power through. So can they finish off this season strong enough to power through, or will there be more hiccups, I guess you could say?
I mean, I think they'll be able to finish off the season. Do I think there will be another hiccup here or there? Yeah. Just because, I mean, you're dealing with grown men. Some of them don't listen, you know what I mean? Bunch of coaches and all that stuff have been fined on the sideline for not wearing masks. You know what I mean? Some of them are just going to do what they want to do. But there needs to be consequences, you know what I mean? The NFL didn't do anything to the Titans, you know what I mean? But then they're talking about coming down extra hard on the Raiders. You know what I mean? So you just got to be more consistent there. The only thing, in my opinion, that is kind of derailing the season for me is all these injuries, man. All these injuries. And obviously it has something to do with having no training camp, all that stuff. Just that's at hand with COVID and all that stuff. But yeah, I just hope some of these injuries just die down, man. There's been too many serious injuries to a team's best player. You know what I mean? So hopefully, you know, come later in the season, people are more in shape, more built, all that stuff. Hopefully these injuries die down and we can just have a COVID-free rest of the season. So.
Yeah, and a lot of people like to rag on the preseason too, but now I think we see how important it actually is to play.
For real, really, yeah.
Because, I mean, it was week 2 when the bloodbath happened, right? It was like so many season-ending injuries that week, and so I think now people realize just how important all that kind of stuff is to the players' long-term health. All right, so now we are about halfway through the season. So do you have a Super Bowl right now that you can see happening? One from the AFC, one from the NFC. Do you have one that you can see happening and one you want to happen maybe?
I mean, I want my Niners Chiefs rematch just because.
Even with all the injuries, you think would you want to see that rematch without all your players that you have hurt though?
I mean, yeah, it'll be tough. Personally, I am of the belief that the Niners are going to go out and get Ryan Kerrigan from the Redskins and kind of beef up our D line. So hopefully that happens. But yeah, I want to see a Chiefs Niners rematch. The Chiefs don't really look like they can be beat right now. I want to root for the Steelers. They haven't really played anybody yet. They played the Titans, and I think they played the Ravens already once this year. But I still kind of got to see more out of them. But, of course, my biased pick is the Niners.
I feel the same way about the Chiefs. I just think, I mean, who in the AFC can actually stop them? I mean, I'd love to be able to say the Raiders are going to go on some magical run, but, I mean, it's the Raiders, so I can't say that. Yeah, I mean, even a lot of people say the Ravens are their next top competitor, but every time the Chiefs and Ravens play, the Chiefs take them
No contest.
out.
Yeah.
I mean, the Ravens. I mean, who have the Ravens really impressed against is the question. I don't think they've really, every time they play like really good competition, they tend to turtle.
Yeah.
So I don't think anyone's going to stop the Chiefs this year. I think Mahomes is just staying money. He got paid and he's still playing well. So I think the Chiefs definitely in the AFC. In the NFC, that NFC West is a bloodbath, and it's fun to watch from the outside. But I think if the Seahawks can figure out their defensive problems, I think maybe they have a shot at making a run there, and that's always a fun team to watch make a run in the playoffs. I mean, it's gonna suck without having the crowd there, obviously, but it's always fun to watch Pete Carroll and Russell Wilson just kind of drop those bombs in there out of nowhere.
Yeah, I definitely don't want to see the Seahawks in. But my non-biased pick out of the NFC would have to be the Bucks.
Yeah.
People don't know too much about the talent that they have on the defensive side of the ball. You know what I mean? Everybody knows about all that talent on the offensive side of the ball. But their defense is ridiculous, man. Their linebackers and their D-line, they are ridiculous. And they have my guy Devin White from LSU. So, yeah, they are tough. They are going to be tough to beat, especially if both sides of the football are clicking. They will definitely be a tough team to beat. And can never count out Tom Brady, even at 50 years old, however old he is. You can never count him out in the playoffs, man. So that's definitely my non-biased pick out of the NFC. And then the Tampa, Kansas City Super Bowl, that'd be tough.
Yeah.
That would be tough.
That would
definitely be tough.
That would be fun. I have no interest in seeing the Bucs succeed just because it's basically all players that Raider fans grew up hating. I mean, my age. So you got, or not grew up hating, but hate now. You got Brady. You got, whatever, Gronk. He was with the Pats. It's basically Patriots 2.0. And then you got AB. I mean, screw that guy as a Raider fan and as most NFL fans would say. So yeah, I can see the Bucs making a run, definitely, especially like you mentioned. Not enough people talk about their defensive abilities, and their defense is really good. And if once that offense gets clicking, it's Tom Brady in a clicking offense, and he's gonna work like a machine and get the job done, basically.
Yeah. Now, do you think the Ravens, if Dez Bryant turns out to be anything close to what he was, you know what I mean? Do you think that kind of gives them a boost out of the AFC?
Yeah, yes and no. I mean, he's on the practice squad right now, right? So he's not. Yeah. I can see him making that leap, but I mean, when was the last time he played in the NFL? It's been a couple of years.
2 years ago, I believe.
Yeah. So I mean, maybe with Lamar, maybe him and Lamar developed that connection. I mean, I mean, I don't think it can hurt them. I think it opens up their offense a lot more.
It definitely gives them a deep ball threat now.
Yeah. So I definitely don't think it hurts them. It's just when it comes time for the playoffs, like who's going to show up on that team? Like you need Lamar Jackson to lead them in the playoffs, and I just think they tend to kind of not show up for the big games, Yeah. Okay, that was the NFL, and that was our review of all 4 sports leagues. Sorry, Major League Soccer, we did not have time to get to you. The Quakes looked good in the MLS's back tournament, and they are almost clinching a playoff spot sometime next weekend, and that's the MLS update. And, thank you guys so much for joining us on this pod today. No interview today. We're going to try and get one next week. If you have anyone that you'd want us to interview or anyone you want to hear on the pod, just let us know. Hit us up on Twitter, Instagram at Solano Stallions. Any closing thoughts, Justin?
Nope. Just thanks everybody for joining, listening in, and go Niners.
Yep. Don't forget to wear a mask, wash your hands, go vote on Tuesday or vote if you haven't already. Thank you guys so much for joining us. And if you decide to join us again next week, we'll see you then.
Yes, thank you.